Thank you. While listening to the testimony, I was reminded of what we went through on Enron, which was a learning experience. And I remember a time where we had a Northwest delegation go meet with Vice President Dick Cheney to beg the administration to help us take some action in response to what was going on with prices going up through the roof and electricity. And what we told the Vice President was that there was obvious some quote imperfections in the market, some manipulation going on. We didn't have adequate oversight over speculation and manipulation. And we told him that 1/3 of all the power was turned off, sort of similar to the refining situation Dr. Cooper talked about. At that time, while prices were going up 1,000%, and he looked at us, he says, you know what your problem is? You just don't understand economics. And we did. I suggest they did not, and we got absolutely taken to the cleaners in the West Coast while the administration sat on its hands and did nothing. And I think that's reminiscent of what we're having here, listening to this testimony, where there is an abject lack of action to respond to this in any way. And I just don't believe we are totally helpless in the face of what is going on in the economy. There are these underlying tensions, but there are things we can do, and frankly, we're not doing them because the administration will not use tools at its disposal nor help us to respond. I want to talk about a longer-term issue. We've talked about the short-term issue. I want to talk about a longer term. As Caroline talked about the need for research and development dollars to really develop a post-carbon-based economy. That might be my terms rather than Ms. Caroline's, but it's the way I think of it. And I wonder if you can just go in a little greater depth what you view as the shortfall in research and development to develop non-carbon-based fuel systems, fuels and fuel systems. I alluded to these electric cars that are now starting to hit the road. Could you just tell us what you think is in the realm, should be in the realm of our scope of our ambition in research and development to wean ourselves off of being so oil and gas dependent?
But the reason I use the numbers on the challenges is because the magnitude of the need, the magnitude of the requirements needs to be well understood. And you know, we're not talking about telephones, widgets, et cetera, in terms of innovation. We're talking about a major commodity-based industry, has a 40-year, its infrastructure has a 40-year lifespan, and we are facing right now, under business as usual carbon emissions, a catastrophic event by 2050, beyond the doubling of CO2 emissions in the atmosphere, if we do not do something and do something now. As I mentioned, the infrastructure value that we're going to have to turn over in the next 40 years is $12 trillion. We have significant challenges. We have to go from 80% carbon-based fuels to and I agree with you, carbon-free, carbon light. I would say perhaps carbon light is kind of the interim that we're going to have to support in order to get to those goals. And by carbon light, I would say sequestration is going to be critical in order for us to get there, as well as natural gas, because it produces so much fewer greenhouse gas emissions. But we have done modeling on this at MIT. Incredible gains in reductions of CO2 emissions in efficiency technologies, and that's in part a deployment issue. But we need biofuels, obviously. We need alternative. Quite frankly, we need nuclear in order to get there. So the R&D investments are, and I said we had $5 to $6 billion total investment, U.S. government and industry in the U.S. to turn over a $12 trillion infrastructure.
And what should be our national goal as far as R&D? What's a reasonable R&D figure we should be shooting at in the next several years?
Right now, the Department of Energy, on its applied energy R&D programs, and I set aside the science office because while it's doing basic research, energy research, it's not strategic research. It is research for research's sake, for knowledge's sake. We're only spending maybe $3 billion a year in energy R&D. I think a doubling of that is absolutely essential. I think also a carbon price is essential, and I know that the Congress is debating the carbon price. We can put a price on carbon. We still don't have the technologies to produce affordable renewable energy at this point, so we need the research. And so a combination of an increase in R&D, much more focused R&D, I think we need to do it better than we've done in the past, and a carbon price is I believe, critical, and I'd double the R&D budget.
Thank you.
Gentleman's time has expired.